And I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was talking to them, and I was telling them about Superback and the security and inheritance protocol that we have and that we've been offering to people. And I said, like, this is the best thing that exists in Bitcoin. And they're like, well, I love how confident you are in that. And I said, well, you know what? Like, I've thought about this stuff for so long. For so long, I'd lay in bed and think of, like, how can I, these are my, like, risks. These are my threats. How can I make sure that I have a counter to that? What can I do? How can I do this better? And I was trying to get super creative with it all. But every road I went down, it always had a dead end where there was one vector there that I couldn't really counter, until I realized I was just kind of missing the whole point of it, right? The problem here that Superbacked and the service that we provide, the problem that we solve is the recovery phrase. That's the problem with everybody's security setup within Bitcoin, is your recovery phrase, right? Because most people have one of these. I'm sure that 90% of people watching the show today have a cold card or a Jade or a passport, a Trezor, a Ledger, whatever that is. And that's great. That's what you want. But with that comes 12 words. And the 12 words is what Superback solves here. So you could have the best hardware wallet in the world by 100 times. But if you're storing your backup phrase on paper or steel in your house, and somebody comes across those 12 words, it doesn't matter what this thing does. Because if somebody wants to take your Bitcoin from this, they need a PIN code. Very secure. They could put in 10 pins. They were wrong, and it bricks itself. It self-destructs. But then you have 12 words or 24 words laying around on paper or steel, regardless of how well you hit it. The point is, if somebody comes across those 12 or 24 words, that is the problem. That's your vulnerability there. And people have come up with different ways to store it. They fragment it, they disperse it, they leave it somewhere else. And that's kind of what I did originally for myself, is I was like, just in case, there's a fire in my house or something, I don't want to have everything in this house. So what I did was I duplicated my private key, my 12 words. I gave it to a friend or a family member. And then I was sitting there one night, or laying in bed one night, and I thought, like, if something happens to their house, or not their house, but if somebody breaks into their house, or somebody comes across my 12 words in their house, I'm done. My Bitcoin's gone without me even knowing it or having any ability to protect that Bitcoin. So that's a vulnerability there. Whenever you're putting your 12 words in your house or somebody else's house as a duplication of that, those are both vulnerabilities there. It's exposed in plain text. That's the whole problem here. And that's what Superbacked and the service that we have solves. So that's kind of like the big picture, like the problem. I'll talk about the solution though, in terms of like what we offer and how it solves that problem. So let me bring this up, because we have a very well written, description of it. So the inheritance thing that we have is called 21 Sats Inheritance, which uses Superbacked. So it's a laptop-based offline system that securely stores critical data: recovery words, passphrase, pins, passcodes, financial account details, anything else that's valuable to you. This is not specific to Bitcoin. Replacing traditional paper and steel backups. It uses Superback software and an air-gapped laptop, plus the inheritance protocol developed by us. So how it works, basically it encrypts the sensitive information that would otherwise exist in plain text. So instead of that 12 or 24 words on paper or steel, it's now encrypted. It generates encrypted QR codes requiring password authentication to access it. So essentially what you're doing here, in a fully air-gapped, not connected to the internet, hard drive ripped out of it, laptop, you're putting in your 12 or 24 words plus any other important information that you want to secure. So you put that into a little text box and you lock it up. And then in order to unlock that or reveal the secret within that text box, you scan a QR code and put in your password. That's how it unlocks it. That's the encryption part of that. So it integrates with the inheritance protocol that can be stored by yourself or at a trusted location in a 21 sats bank vault. No trust required. So it's transparent, the Superback software itself is transparent and verifiable code available on GitHub for recovery. In case you were to ever lose your laptop, your USB, however you're storing your copy of it, it's available and verifiable on GitHub, which is a very, very important part of this. Fully non-KYC service. No one except you ever has knowledge of your digital asset holdings. Also an important part. So when you think about competitors to this solution, so collaborative custody, you think of Unchained, you think of Casa, you think of a few other ones. They hold the key to that Bitcoin. They know how much Bitcoin you have. And whenever you're talking about Bitcoin security, never think in terms of like, would this happen? Because the chances of Unchained or Casa rugging you, I would say, are very, very, very small. Would they do it? Probably not. But could they? Could something happen where the government comes and says, we want all access to your clients because you hold a key to them. We know you have their information. That's a vulnerability. So we can do this fully non-KYC. We don't need to know your last name. We don't need to know your email, your phone number, your address, and most importantly, how much Bitcoin you have. The core software, Superback, was developed by a privacy security expert and verified by the inventor of the first hardware wallet. So this code for Superback is transparent, verifiable, and has been reviewed by some of the best minds in Bitcoin, including the person who invented the hardware wallet, the Trezor. So you can find, I'll put this in the chat here for everybody if you want to go check it out. Here's the Superback website. I just put in the chat there for you. It's just superback.com. And in terms of the pricing, so we only have one package. There's no different tiers within our security inheritance protocol. Everybody gets the same treatment. Very important Bitcoiners treatment, which is $500 per year. That's one option. And we also offer a lifetime membership, which is $2,100. Most people who have signed up so far have gone the lifetime route. It makes the most sense because a few different reasons. The first thing I would say is that every year, part of this includes what I'm about to talk about here. It includes a health check. So twice per year, Craig and I will meet with you, with your family, get everybody trained, get everybody educated, familiar, trusting. And so it's a lifetime. This is something that you want for after you're gone. If something were to unexpectedly happen to you, that's the whole point of this service here. Yes, it's great for the security, but the inheritance is kind of the whole magic within this. So it's $500 a year. That's one option, or you can do a lifetime membership, most popular, $2,100. You can also pay that over 3 years for $800 for a total of $2,400. And that's probably going to increase. I'm going to be completely honest with you. That's probably going to increase here in the next little while. We started with these prices just to get some interest, to get some people working with some people here, get some testimonials, get some reviews on it. But this service, I would say just having access to Craig himself is worth more than that price tag on it. So if you compare it to other competitors who offer something like this, that's criminal how low that is. So it's not going to be like that forever. We're just kind of getting off the ground. We are a newer company, so we need to, build a reputation here. And then I'm guessing that'll go up quite a bit. But that's what it is today. So all the payment methods include the exact same VIB, very important Bitcoiner package, which is a program overview and personal assessment. So we look at kind of where you are right now and make it better right off the bat. We also give custom equipment recommendations. So what kind of hardware you're going to need to go ahead with this. A full list of everything that you need to order, which is about less than $500. So that's kind of the initial investment that you have to make for this setup, plus the service that we provide. But once that's done, it's done. So we tell you everything that you need to do within the setup of it. The installation setup, we walk through basically step by step with you, not in person. not in the same room as you. You have full privacy. It's all non-KYC. We have no idea what you're putting in your box, but we walk you through it through a call like this. So a full installation and a tutorial. Personalized inheritance protocol and the secret management plan. So that's, again, kind of the magic of why this thing is so powerful, is because the inheritance protocol that plugs into this thing. Plus the secret management plan. So you put these 12 words, your recovery phrase, any other important digital information, you put it into this text box, but we advise you like where to leave the QR codes, who you should trust with, how to manage it all, how you can incorporate that into your inheritance plan and make it crystal clear for your family. Again, if something were to happen to you, they need to know exactly what to do, not just have like this, decent understanding of it or decent idea or a treasure map or anything. It has to be crystal clear of where everything is. Plus verification biannual health check. So again, we do twice a year. We meet with you, your family, whoever wants to be involved in the process, make sure that you can recover it. See if there's any ways we can make your security setup even better. Because again, we start with where you are. There's no requirements that you need to have a multi-sig or this device or this in place. We start with where you are, make it better. And then each year, twice a year, we find ways to improve that. Maybe we move it into a multi-sig eventually, if it makes sense. Recovery support, big one, obviously. If something were to happen to you, we are the people that your family reaches out to and says, here's the inheritance plan. Help us through this, please. Help us restore this Bitcoin. Without having to go through all the KYC stuff, without having to go through the courts, the probate, all the BS, we'll help you do it. And between now and then, that's when we put steps in place like a trust, like a will, to make sure that you avoid all that stuff that you don't want to have to deal with or your family doesn't have to want to deal with after you're gone. And of course, email and live chat support. So basically we do all the communications through the Signal app. We set up a group chat for the initial call. Plus that's where all the communication happens. So we won't be available 24/7, but 365 days a year, one of us will be available for anything that you need. So again, having a guy like Craig on your team is worth this price tag 10x probably just for that, in my opinion. Knowing him, having spent some time with him, you cannot put a price on that sort of information. And I haven't said this before to him or to anybody before, but I think he is probably one of the top, I want to say 1,000, but it might even be 100 minds in Bitcoin in the world. Privacy, security, everything that you need to know. And you're going to have this guy on your team. That to me is worth, again, 10x the admission just for that alone. Never mind the encryption, never mind the inheritance, any of that. Having a guy like Craig on your team is worth this 10x. And I was thinking about it last night. I'm like, I was thinking in my head, $2,100, how it seems like a lot to a lot of people. And I get that. I would be in the exact same position. But when I think about similar things and what else I've paid $2,100 for, and other professionals, other advisors, you could go into an accounting firm on your block in your city, and you could say, here's my tax return. I want you to do my corporate tax return for the year. So basically, you're going to look at everything that I've already done this year and put it into a fancy document and send that into the government. And we're going to charge you $4,000 for this year. So yes, $2,100 seems like it's hard to swallow. But when you compare that to what we're offering here, it's not even close. So that I just wanted to throw that in there because that's something I was thinking about. I'm like, what do other advisors charge? What do other professionals charge in the fiat world to look at things that you've already done? Never mind protect anything you have, but just basically review it and send it into the government. They're charging you $4,000 for that for 1 year. So my biggest fear within this is people are going to look at the $2,100 and say, how valuable are these guys really? That's my biggest concern with this, because people see value based on the price. So again, we're probably going to have to boost this up in the future here, but we're just kind of getting started here. We're just getting off the ground. So that's kind of where we are right now. So that's everything that's included in there. The solution supports unlimited wallets and multi-sig wallets. It supports Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, including stablecoins. It can also store and encrypt other digital assets such as financial accounts, 2FA codes, PIN codes, and other important passwords. We encourage family members to be involved with the review to get them comfortable and confident with the process. It's a big one. I don't know how many other advisory or security companies have that. Twice a year, check in with you, your family, make sure everybody's on the same page. That's what you want. You want it to be clear. They don't need to know how much Bitcoin you have or anything like that. But if something were to happen to you unexpectedly, it has to be crystal clear, making sure that they can restore that Bitcoin. And what makes our service truly unique is the focus on your privacy. That's the real differentiator here. Full privacy, fully non-KYC. Again, we don't need to know your last name. We don't need to know your phone number, address, email, how much Bitcoin you have, nothing. We don't hold a key to this. It's all on you. We just kind of help you through it all. We guide you. And the only drawback here is that it takes a little bit more work, more responsibility. Again, the other options are very convenient, very easy, but there's trade-offs. Everything has trade-offs here. So if you are somebody who doesn't want to go through this process, then yeah, this might not make sense for you. It's more work, fully non-KYC. We don't hold a key. We don't know how much Bitcoin you have. You don't have to trust us with anything here. That's the beauty of it. But it's not for everybody, because some people aren't going to want to go through take the time to do this. So that's kind of the background on it. And I wanted to get through a couple different questions that people have been asking about it, a couple key ones. And I'm sorry I've kind of been neglecting the chat here. I just really wanted to get through that. Okay. So the one of the questions that people have been asking is like, what's the threshold? What's the amount of Bitcoin I need to have in order to be like to make an investment into this? And I don't think that there's a threshold in terms of how much Bitcoin you need to have. I think it's more important. The more important question is like, could you be buying more Bitcoin instead? Like if you have like 1 million sats or 2 million sats, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to be doing this right now. I would rather see you buy Bitcoin instead right now and come back to us in like a year or two when you have more Bitcoin. That's kind of what I would say there. But it's not like you need a full Bitcoin, because as we just watched Saylor talk about there, like this thing is going to be more valuable than we can even imagine, even fathom in our heads right now. So you're preparing for that day. That's the steps we're taking between now and then. You're preparing for that. And again, Craig and I, there's only 2 of us right now. We probably will be expanding in terms of like working with more people. But there's only 2 of us right now. So our time is limited. So the longer you wait, the longer you procrastinate, it's just going to stretch on. And at that point, who knows? Maybe this service now costs 10x what it did today. So within reason, like if you're still trying to get as much Bitcoin as you can right now, this probably doesn't make sense for you. If you're kind of like satisfied and comfortable with the amount of Bitcoin that you have and you want to protect that, that's kind of where I would lean towards this kind of a plan right now. Putting that money into this instead of buying more Bitcoin. So there's no number, just kind of like where you're at right now in terms of your accumulation. Another question is, which wallet do I use? So it doesn't matter. We basically start with wherever you are. You could have all your Bitcoin on a ledger right now, and we would just start with that. And we'd find a way to make that better on day one. And we would encrypt your 12 or 24 words with this service, set up the inheritance. And then again, during our biannual checkups, that's when we would say, okay, maybe we should consider moving this to a cold card. What does that look like? The beauty of Superback is it's very, very flexible, and it can evolve as your security needs evolve as well. So we basically start with you are. It doesn't matter. Start with where you are. It doesn't matter where you are. That's what you have. That's where you're starting with. And then we'll just get better slowly over time with it. Who holds the keys? You. We hold nothing. We know nothing. That's the beauty of this plan, this protocol. We don't hold a key. We don't know how much Bitcoin you have. We don't know where you live, anything like that. You could do this whole thing without us even knowing your first name, which is crazy. But that's what our focus is on here. We very much value your privacy, and we don't think it's a necessary step in this whole thing. And it takes a lot of liability off of us too, because if we don't have that information, if somebody comes to us, what are we going to give them? So who holds the keys? You hold all the keys. You manage that. That's what you put in the documents. You have a very clear map and a plan of who's holding these QR codes and where they are, and you hold all of them. That's the whole thing here. And I think that this is one of the things that gets most people's interest here is like, this is the only thing that I'm aware of that allows you to maintain full ownership of your Bitcoin keys, not having to trust anybody and not telling anybody how much Bitcoin you have. You could have zero trace of Bitcoin in your house using this protocol. It's the only thing that, I shouldn't say that. There's other ways to do it, but there's trade-offs there. Again, somebody else is holding a key. You might not have any Bitcoin keys in your house, but that means that somebody else is holding the key for you. In this case, they're holding a QR code, which is encrypted. They don't know it has anything to do with Bitcoin. They don't know what's behind that QR code. So you could leave these with people that you don't even trust. They can't do anything with it. So that's the whole thing here is you can have zero trace of Bitcoin in your house on your person while still maintaining full ownership and trusting nobody. There's nothing better than that in Bitcoin. That's the end goal. That's what this is. This is the end goal of your Bitcoin security. So it's not something that happens in a week. Even the people we've been working with for a while, it takes a long time. But the first step is just committing to it, starting. And the last question here, and a very important one, I would say, is that what if Craig and I disappear and you go through the process of paying for a lifetime membership? Very valid question. And every startup on the planet in existence has gone through the same thing, where they offer a lifetime membership, and you never know if the company's going to be around in 20 years or 10 years or even 2 years. So there's a couple different answers that I would have for that, but the main thing is that the Superback software itself, you have the copy of it, you have the file, what am I looking for here? You have the software, you have the file on your computer. I'm just drawing a blank right now. But the point is that even if Craig or I did disappear, even if we went rogue, and again, we don't have any of your information, we don't have a key to your Bitcoin, which is an important part of that. But even if we disappeared, Superback itself is available on GitHub. It's available on the archived internet, I believe, where you can restore it. You have a copy. We both have a copy, but in this case, we're gone. So you have a copy. But the other thing too here is that Superback is, as of now, going to be rolled out commercially. So there's law firms, there's notaries, there's banks who are in the process of setting this up right now. So even if we disappeared, you could go in 5 years from now to one of these, they're called Superback operators, and you could essentially get them to restore your information there on your behalf. Again, it's going to cost more, probably be 20x of what we charge. Plus it's going to be fully KYC because it's a bank, right? So that's kind of like the last worst case scenario here. If we were to disappear in a couple of years, you would still have your file. You'd have a copy of it, and you could take that to one of these commercial operators, or again, just get it off GitHub or archived internet, whatever that's called. And of course, we have no intentions of doing that. We're here for the very long term. It also helps that I have a public YouTube channel. So the risk here isn't really worth the reward for me, obviously. And the final thing that I would say to that is that if we were ever to like shut down, if me and Craig got in a disagreement or something, we're going to give back your payment, full refund. Even if you go through 6 months of this and you're not satisfied with what we're doing, we'll give you a full refund on it. Like, we're not in the business here, clearly, of ripping people off. We would rather have you buy Bitcoin. Probably our biggest drawback is neither of us are big salespeople. We don't put any sort of pressure on anybody. People come to us and we help them. So that's the questions. That's the overview of it. And this is exactly true. My financial advisor is 1% of the portfolio and $2,000 per year fee. But yeah. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there because I do got to get going here. But the last thing I would say is that if you are interested, I see that majority of people have been kind of watching the number of people in here right now. And it seems like there wasn't a whole lot of people leave, which means that there's probably a little bit of interest here. So if you're serious about this, the first thing I would say is just shoot me an email. That's step one. Just say, I'm interested. Can you give me some more info? If you have any questions, you can just ask me here. But we're also going to be doing like another private show with this, not a webinar where people have to pay for it, but just like for people who are serious about this, instead of just me talking to like the void here. If you're serious about our security and inheritance protocol, we're going to do like an invite only kind of webinar type deal. Craig, he's a security privacy guy. He's never going to be on YouTube, but we've done a couple of these so far, and we'll do another one. So if you're interested, you can kind of just show up and ask specific questions. We'll get Craig to fill in any gaps that I may have missed here, but just shoot me an email, whether you have questions, whether you want to join the, I don't want to call it a private show. I guess it is kind of a private show, but the secondary session that we do here, or if you just want to take the leap and say, let's set up a call. I understand it conceptually. Let's move forward with it. So one of those three things, shoot me an email, wherever this is, bitcoincitadel.net, jor@bitcoincitadel.net. And yeah, that's it. So Bangrang says Superback is like encrypted text file with password split into 3 QR codes. It's a great idea. It's actually like you could do as many QR codes as you want to. So I'll just, maybe this is the last thing we'll discuss here, but let's say that you had, let's say you have this. You have one cold card, single signature wallet. That's where we're starting here, right? So you have the option here of, instead of putting your recovery phrase on paper or steel, we're encrypting that. So we put those 12 words into the text box. We put your PIN code, we put your passphrase, any of the metadata that's required to back it up properly. We put all that in there. That's part of the initial setup. So then from there, you have QR codes. You could do 1, you could do 3, you could do 5, you could do 10, and you could do one of 1. So just in order to unlock your text box, you just need one of those QR codes, combine that with your password, unlocked. You could do a multi-sig on top of a single sig. So instead of only needing 1, maybe you need 3 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 combined. Scan, 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 password, unlocked. So based on your comfort level, based on your risks, threats in your life, that's kind of how we decide what this looks like, big picture. So it could be 3, it could be 10, it could be 1 of 1, it could be 2 of 3. It's very flexible. And so the nice thing about this is you just have a password. That's the only thing that you need to remember here. You could send these QR codes to whoever you want to, wherever you want to, different parts of the world, your friend, your enemy. It's just a QR code. To restore it, you got to go get those QR codes, scan it, put in your password, and your password is what you back up. That's the thing that you have to keep here. And that's the thing that we advise people to put on the steel, because that's the thing that you need to have here. And you might say, well, Jor, that's in plain text, so that's kind of defeats the whole purpose of it. Yes, but somebody comes across one password in your house, could be for anything. Could be for your email, could be for your hydro, could be for anything. It's just one word. But if somebody came across 12 or 24 words in your house, that's Bitcoin. So that's the beauty of it, is that you take that password, it's one word, or you can, I think you can do up to 4. But either way, it's not 12, it's not 24. People would have no idea what it's for. That's what you put in steel. That's what you put into your inheritance protocol. And that's how your Bitcoin lives on longer than you. So hope that makes sense. Again, we're not salespeople. There's zero pressure. If you want to use this service at this rate, just shoot me an email there. So I see, I see a couple emails have already rolled in here. So that's good. So I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But for now, I hope you're having a great hump day. Thank you for a couple zaps here, whoever sent that in. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll be back at the normal time tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.